Well, 2022 is come and gone. As we were just talking, we lost a lot of people. Gabby, we know we lost Stephen, and heartbreak, right? I lost my father. Those are goodbyes in 2022. Super painful. Lots of other people. I was just, Queen Elizabeth II, after 70 years of reigning in England. Mikhail Gorbachev passed away. Madeleine Albright, Sidney Poitier, Loretta Lynn, Naomi Judd, Olivia Newton-John, Angela Lansbury, all in 2022. Bob Saget, Christy Alley, Ray Liotta, William Hurt, Orrin Hatch, Ivana Trump, James Caan, Ken Starr, Vin Scully, and Hash. I mean, we lost a lot every year, right? Things go quickly, and just a couple days ago, Barbara Walters, and I think yesterday, Pope Benedict. Lots of goodbyes, which isn't supposed to cause fear. It's supposed to cause a sense of urgency. It's supposed to imbue us with a sense of all of us, our days are numbered, and we don't know what those are. So while we're here, let's live well and live with a sense of purpose and passion. Let's do something that's transcendent, something that counts for eternity. A lot of other crazy things in 2022, but some cool things. I mean, we did have the Ukraine war, which was consumed most of the year. We had the Freedom Convoy up in Canada. We had Leah Thomas, a male transgender swimmer, win the NC2A Women's 500 Freestyle event and was nominated for the NC2A Woman of the Year. So there's a lot of craziness in 2022. We had the border crossings. We had the FBI raid at Mar-a-Lago. We had the highest, I think, up 80% fentanyl deaths in history. Supermarket prices were up at least 8%. So the worst inflation in 4 decades. It was a challenging year. Saw a lot of stuff, not just crazy in Iran, not just crazy in Russia, but President Xi and China kind of overtook their. He served his 2 terms, which the Chinese president does, but he took a third one and made himself the supreme leader for all time. So I'm like, there's a lot of interesting things going on, but of course there's super positive things going on. If you have eyes to see, God's still working. Roe versus Wade was overturned in 2022. That's a significant piece of movement for life and for God. Disney got faced with some lawmakers in Florida that said, too woke, too weird, so we're going to take your tax-exempt privileges away. So we have seen some people push back and go, too far. We know you're pagans, heathens, you don't live for the things of God, but you're getting too disruptive and too crazy. So we saw some pushback. Perhaps one of my favorite things was Elon Musk taking over Twitter and kind of stopping all the conservatives that were getting kiboshed and canceled. And that's a bold move, for someone in 2022. And we're seeing a little more freedom available on platforms today. So just when you think, the news is so bad, you can look, and if you have eyes to see, you can see God's still working. He's still doing what he wants to do, and he's still going to achieve his purposes. And of course, for us at the Bridge, 2022 was the year of revelation. You guys you just crushed it. We got through that entire book, and we got to see that, one, sin's going to be judged. God still is inviting people to come into a relationship with him, and does through not only our present time, but will do so through the tribulation, will do so through the millennial kingdom, will do through, all the way up to the great white throne, till the very end, until he separates the sheep from the goats. He's going to say, if you want to come to me, you can. Like he's still providing opportunities to have a relationship with him, which is super cool. And thanks to you, you're still standing for the truth in a culture you live in the land of lies. but you're still proclaiming the truth. And I think it's super cool. And I do not take that for granted. I network with a lot of pastors. A lot of them aren't teaching from the Bible anymore, or what they're giving is the equivalent of a TED Talk, a nice little motivational nugget to make you feel good about yourself before you leave. They're not necessarily addressing some of the hard stuff. And you guys are like courageous that way. You're looking at your own sin. You're doing your own logectomy, looking at the log in your own eye, repenting, honoring God, and coming with a sense of, Lord, tell us what the truth is, and then we'll align ourselves with you. Not we come with our own beliefs, and then I don't know if I believe that, or I'm not sure I'm committed to that, or no, we don't judge God. God judges us. And you come and you realign yourself week after week, which is super cool. Today we're going to look at Isaiah 43, 16 through 21. So if you have a Bible or a platform that you want to follow along the text, we're going to see in this text that God will make a way when there seems to be no way. And we talked about that old worship song by Don Moen that says, God will make a way when there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. And He's going to make a way for you. And I don't know exactly what you're dealing with right now in this moment, but it's a new year, so we have a new opportunity to be salt and light, to season and shine with those around us, but also to reaffirm our commitment to Christ and what He has for us. This passage is super interesting because in some ways, we just took communion, which is remembering historically what God has done. But this passage actually takes a different view, which is don't look at what I've done. Are you tracking with what I'm going to do? We can talk about all the great things God has done over the last year, last decade, what He's doing in your marriage, what He's doing in your business, what He's doing personally and professionally. He's like, I don't even want you to think about that. I want you to look ahead because I'm going to do something fresh and new and wonderful. Like, that's our God. It's like He doesn't just rest on His laurels. He kind of points us forward. He in this passage, He's really saying your future is better than your past. I know there's some people who's like, well, I don't know, this could be a really tough year. Well, it is going to be a tough year, but you're going to be stronger and more resilient and less regulated by the craziness. And having just studied Revelation, you know what your future is. So even when you're down in the fourth quarter, you can come back because you know you win in the end. So this passage is super cool for all of those who feel like they're going through something that's difficult or dry. You feel a little despair, a little discouragement, a little disillusionment. This passage reminds you that God can comfort us, not only in our captivity, which they were in the Old Testament during this time, but in our suffering, in our dark nights, in our hard times. All of us, of course, are prone to wander. We're prone to forget God's promises, His mercies, His power, His love. But this passage says, if you can remember that, then remember He'll do it again. You don't just look back like we have a great God. We have a great God that's done great stuff, but is going to do something special for you. So let's read our text. It's written by Isaiah. He was an esteemed citizen of Jerusalem, by the way, 28 centuries ago. So we're like in the 700s before Christ. So this is a while back. He's a trusted advisor of King Hezekiah. He writes this in Isaiah 43, starting in verse 16. Let's read these 5 verses or 6 verses. This is what the Lord says. He who made a way through a sea, or through the sea, a path through the mighty waters, he who drew out the chariots and the horses, the army and reinforcements together. This is an old vision of Egypt. And they lay there never to rise again, extinguished, snuffed out like a wick. Forget the former things. Don't dwell on the past. He's referring back now to when he freed them from Egypt. Even though you saw that amazing departure from Egypt, remember the Passover, remember the angel of death passed over you, remember you were escaping and then you got trapped by the Red Sea, remember I parted the oceans, and the waters for you so that you could escape, and remember then when they followed you and then I swallowed up the seas and destroyed the Egyptian army. Like, you remember how amazing that was? You don't even have to remember that. You don't even have to dwell on that. That is so 2022. See, I'm doing, verse 19, a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. The wild animals honor me, the jackals and the owls, because I provided water in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland to give drink to my people, my chosen, the people I formed for myself, that they may proclaim my praise. Super cool passage. So let's unpack it. Let's go back to verse 16. It says, this is what the Lord, that is the Eternal One, says. He who made a way, could be translated a roadway or a pathway through the sea, a smooth path, if you will, through rough, strong, tumultuous, mighty waters, again referring to crossing the Red Sea, also referred to crossing the Jordan River, giving a lot of allusions here. He says that God can get you through a sea, that God who can get you over a ditch, that God can get you past a problem. He's already done it. He's doing it now. He's going to do it again for you. He can help you overcome barriers and blockades. He can help you get over hurdles and obstacles and pediments. And I know right now you have some pediment in your mind. Again, it could be financial, could be personal, could be something. Sylvia, we were talking about, do you want to share some news you got? You were talking about, I have an obstacle, I don't know how God's going to work it out. And then just this week, right? What happened?
Well, so I'm an insurance broker, and insurance is getting a little tough right now to sell. So December was a tough month for me, so I was trying to figure out next month, because I'm self-employed. Well, the IRS deposited a good amount of money into my account Saturday morning, so I was very excited.
And that was something that was back in 2019, right? That didn't get resolved.
I never got any of that. And so since 2020, I don't even remember.
Yeah, God's held it for 2 or 3 years for you.
So
God knows. He knows. We were just talking, over Christmas, I don't know how I'm going to get through the next month. And God has provided a way. And He can do that. He can remove obstacles, and He can take mountains down. You don't have to read the story of Jericho to know that. If He wants to take something down to get you through, He can. And if He's not, He wants us to learn something. If He wants us to miss a flight, there's apparently a purpose in that. If He wants to close every Starbucks in Memphis, He can do that. He's not going to thwart what He wants us to accomplish, though. He's just redirecting us. And so we move forward. And He says, He who drew out to their destruction the chariots and horses of Pharaoh, the army and reinforcements, the Egyptian warriors together. And then He drowned them. They lay there never to rise again. He's like, I didn't just make a way for you through the water, through the Red Sea, just parting it so you could exit. I also destroyed your enemy. I also led them, the entire Egyptian army, into that pathway, and then at the right time, just happened to conveniently close up the Red Sea. Bye-bye. When you feel like I'm powerless against the IRS, I'm powerless against the FBI, I'm powerless against the CIA, the big tech, the deep state, it's just too big, it's too overwhelming. I don't know how to... God, He can help them to overcommit, to play their hand. The woke people can go a little too far and wake people up, and then He can when He wants. They're not getting away with anything. God can not only lead you out, he can destroy people who are pursuing you. And he does. In fact, look what the verse continues to say in verse 17. Extinguished means destroyed. He destroyed their lives, snuffed out, quenched them like a wick. Could be translated, he quenched them or snuffed them out like flax and flame, like a candle wick that's basically put into water. Can you picture that, right? You got a candle, and it's one thing to, a little birthday cake, like it's out, but it's still it's another thing to take that thing and just put it in a bucket of water. It's like, done. Like, that is snuffed out. He's like, that's what I did with Pharaoh's army. And in the future, I will do that with the armies of Iran and China and Russia and all those that come against Israel and my chosen people. We already looked at those battles, the Battle of Armageddon. Remember, we thought, that's going to be an amazing battle. I couldn't wait to teach it. And then it's like, God's like, he breathes, it's like they're wiped out. It's like, I guess it wasn't a battle at all. He is God. When he wants to move, he will, can, and does. So if you're struggling with something, hang in there. God can remove it if he wants. He can take it away, and perhaps he wants us to suffer a little bit. Maybe grow in character. Maybe develop patience. But when he's ready, he can snuff anything out, like taking a candle and just putting it in a bucket of water. Verse 18, he knows that memories can be powerful, and there's all these sense that what God has done, but he says, I want you actually today to just forget the former things. I don't even need you to remember or dwell on that. It means don't consider it. Don't ponder the past. It's always great to talk about the victorious days, remember when God did this? Remember when he accomplished that? And it's like, that's super cool. Yes, I remember. But he's like, don't get too preoccupied there. Don't just revel and retell and recount what God has done. He's going to do something else now, in the future. That's so cool. So don't just obsess on your Old Testament heroes. Don't just live off the incredible miracles you've seen Jesus do and you've heard about. Yes, he healed the lame and the blind and the deaf. And yes, he fed the 5,000. Yes, with 2 little fishies and 5 loaves. It's amazing. You don't need to just romanticize about what God has done with the apostles and how he navigated and got them out of jail and did amazing stuff through them. You don't have to just get sentimental about what God has done, even in our simple fellowship and the miracles he's done here in this little warehouse. We could, but here he says, I want you to look forward, not backwards. Yeah, we could tell stories. God is amazing. But look ahead. The golden years weren't centuries ago. The happy days weren't just decades ago. The best of times weren't just pre-corona virus. The best days are ahead. Look, verse 19. What's the first word in your translation? What does it say? See. See? Could be translated look. Could be translated like watch or behold. Some translations say behold. It's like look, see, like wake up, like behold. It's kind of like a rattle phrase, like are you tracking? I am doing a new thing. It's like he takes your shoulders and goes, hey, listen carefully. Be present and alert. I am preparing to do a new thing for you. An amazing thing. A fresh thing. Yes, you were delivered from Egypt. Yes, you're going to be delivered from the Assyrians. Yes, you're going to escape the Babylonians. Yes, of course, I'm going to do that. And yes, in the New Testament, God's going to come and send his son and convert the Gentiles, and there will be worldwide global evangelism. And, yes, in the end, as we studied in Revelation, I'll consummate history, and you'll be raptured, and there'll be the end times and the millennial kingdom and the eternal state. Like, yes. But are you tracking like right now, this new year, something new is springing up? He used kind of novel, fresh language of sprouting, almost an agricultural term that says something's bursting out. It's like flowers opening. Something's happening. Something like the grass is getting plush, like springtime. Something's blooming, like there's fragrant flowers, like something's happening. Do you not perceive it? Don't you notice it? Don't you see it? Are you not aware? Are you not discerning? Are you not recognizing? Are you not identifying? Are you not grasping? This rhetorical question here is a pause which says, you don't believe me, do you? You think I'm the God of yesterday. You think I'm the God that, yes, one time he did that. Yeah, when I was in high school, I went to a camp and he really changed my life. And then when I was college, he really did. Like, you're so like 2022. I'm springing up something right now. And it's probably not in full fruition for you right now, but there's a seed he's planting in you, a vision or a dream or a hope or something. He's working something out in your personal or professional life right now. And it's going to start to open up, and it's going to start to like bloom a little bit. And it's like, do you perceive it? Like, the rhetorical question is, do you believe me? Do you think I'm still the God today? Because I am. I hope you do see it. How about this for unique and special? He goes on, I am making a way in the wilderness. What do you think of when you think of the wilderness, right? The dry, parched, barren, desolate place. Arizona, right? If I can make a Scottsdale rise up out of the desert, and our valley here is kind of a desert, at least when I was a kid, it was pretty deserty, right? I can raise up stuff. He goes, how's that? I'm going to give you streams in the wasteland. That's in the places that you go, no, that's not going to happen. In the arid, uninhabited, infertile, in the barren places. Isn't that part of the Christmas story? Right? Zechariah and Elizabeth, like, we're so old and so barren. It's like, oh, that's not a problem for God. Whatever you think, there's stuff you think is like done. It's too late. We're too old. It's too gone. It's can't be restored. This marriage has gone way downhill too far, or this relationship or this business deal or something it's just too lost. That's not what this is saying. He's like, are you tracking? Like, he can take the word, like, we're talking Barstow people, needles. Like, he can do something there in the middle, Ridgecrest. It's like, out there he can create a garden. This is different. He's like, I do state of the art. I'm like cutting edge. Like, this is like ultra cool stuff. Like, this is razzle dazzle. Like, I'm God. So when you feel overwhelmed, or you feel stuck, or you can't see your future, or there seems no way, you just can't find a road or a path for yourself. You're in the desert. Maybe for you today, you're in a recession. You're in a frightening pandemic. We've been through that. Or you're in a hard, stressful place. Maybe an unknown, scary place. He's like, that's what I do. I'm God. I get people out of Egypt. I get people out of Babylon. You don't think I can get you out of your stuff? Well, I can. Are you tracking? I'm already doing it. I'm already working on something you may not even know. You may not even discern yet. This blessing he's talking about is so breathtaking, so amazing, and so wonderful, so abundant. Look what he says in verse 20. Even the wild animals, the best of the field, they honor me and they show thanks. The jackals and the owls. That's like the coyotes and the buzzards, the wild dogs and the surly birds. They're in joy. Like they're excited. Like, I don't know, a little gopher. I just picture a little gopher out in the desert or something going, this is awesome. It's like, what? Yeah, well, they're excited because I provide water in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. Like, we're talking about the Arabian desert here, a sun-baked, scorching earth. And there I give drink, trickling springs and drinking water to my people, my chosen people. These are people I've handpicked. These are people I've selected, like you. These are people I super care about. We just went through some crazy years. And I don't know, the first thing that came to my mind, like, he can provide toilet paper. Yeah, yes, even, just sometimes it's like, it's so basic. It's like, how could there's empty shelves, we're doomed, Praise God we had the church. Anyone who have paper we can borrow this week? Like, we'll get you, like, we just helped each other out. Like, it was toilet paper, and then it was ventilators. We needed ventilators. And sometimes it's just people need love, and they need grace, and they need hope. And it doesn't matter if it's hospital beds or an IRS check that's 2 or 3 years delayed. God can find a way to give us what we need to get us through. And he finishes out here in verse 21. Why do I do this? I do it for the people I formed, especially for myself. I'm doing it for my family. You are hand-picked. God really loves you. He really cares about you. You matter to him. Specifically, I know it's like, well, he cares about all people. He does, but not in the same way. His chosen people are unique. And you can look around. There's no one like you in here. No one has your unique gifts, your unique abilities, your IQ, your EQ, and any other Qs you have. You're one of a kind. He doesn't duplicate it. You're the snowflake, the fingerprint. He's like, I've hand-selected you to be mine. And I'm not going to let you just meander into the new year like, I know he's good, but he's still good. And he's planning good for you. And he wants you to know, like, it's going to be a good year. Even though it's going to be crazy on so many levels. I do this for the people that I formed, that I custom made, that I hand-picked. You are his cherished sons and daughters. Immortal spirits created in his image, enlightened and guided by his heavenly truth, sanctified and regulated by his divine love, assimilated to God in understanding and heart and purpose and action and blessedness. Why? Why would he do that? This is interesting because here, embedded in the fact that he's got something fresh and new for you, he also says, I'll tell you a little bit about the chief end of man. Like, I'll tell you your purpose. You are part of a grand design here. Why? End of verse 21. That you could proclaim my praise. I get pleasure out of blessing you, and I'm not done. Yeah, you can look backwards, but I say you look forward. The future is going to be terrific, and one of the purposes is so that you can praise me to other people. To proclaim is to affirm and to announce, to declare and demonstrate, to profess, if you will, to trumpet, to broadcast, to herald. You get to tell people you have a God who's still alive and living. I was studying a little bit of Genesis because we're thinking of going through the book of Genesis. And I was back in Genesis 1, and it says, he created the sun and the moon. And I was just struck, like, wow, back in the day, that's not just like he's the creator God. That was his way of saying, all of you who worship the sun, and so many at that time were worshiping the moon, it's like, they're not gods. Only I am. I was like, there's so much in there, just in this simple statement, like, okay, he created the sun and the moon and the stars, it's beautiful. That's what people were worshiping. It says, no, I'm God, and I deserve to be praised, adored, and admired, and applauded, and appreciated, commended, and complimented. We're designed to extol and exalt and to elevate God because he's so good. To hail and to honor and to revere and to laud, to bow down to give thanks to pay homage and tribute to clap and to cheer and to congratulate and celebrate and say, our God is an awesome God. He reigns. And he's not done. He's not the old God. This is so archaic, this old book. No, this book is designed to tell us that he's still alive and doing stuff for us today. Now, when you get to the New Testament, you can go, well, that's so like Isaiah. Yeah, but Peter picks this up. Peter, the rock, the leader of the disciples, writes in 1 Peter 2:9, you are a chosen people, a chosen generation and race, a royal priesthood. This goes all the way back to the same passage here. This is like the New Testament version. You're given, he says, you're given a high calling. You are a holy nation. You've been set apart people. You're consecrated. You're God's special people and possessions, so that you may, and he says the same thing Isaiah does, declare the praises of him who's called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. One of the purposes of him blessing us and giving us a hope and a future is that we can tell people, I'm not scared of the recession. I'm not going to be terrified by what CNN is telling us. I'm not going to get overwhelmed with news from MSNBC. No, I'm not. No, whoa, the world is going woke and it's weird and there's this and there's that. There's always been craziness. You not studied history? It's always been crazy. But we are not going to be daunted by the darkness when we have the God of light on our, and there's great movements even in the craziness, and he's doing it. We get to contemplate and adore his excellencies. That's why we come every Sunday. We, from our hearts, with our lips, along with God's people, by formal acts of devotion and assembly, which you're doing today, by celebrating his ordinance, which we did with communion, by giving of our tithes and offerings, of showing God that you're worthy. We give back to you. We know everything we receive is from you, and we give back to you and celebrate you, and we confess you and commend you to others, and we participate in the Great Commission, and we order our speech to be ordered by your priorities, and we select words that are edifying, and we give our whole lives as a living and holy sacrifice, because you continue to do new things in us. You continue to blossom things that are amazing for us. We praise you, we honor you, we esteem you, and we do it regularly. And today, as we start a new year, we pause and go, yes, we're making you first in our lives again this year. We're going to have no other gods, no other priorities, no other affections that are going to be greater than you, because you continue to make a new way for us. You are the amazing God. We're going to avoid things that you tell us to avoid. We're going to do what you ask us to do. We're going to submit to those truths that you've shared with us. We're going to trust again this year your promises. We're going to submit to your authority, your wisdom, your love. Why? Because we love you, and people who love you obey you, and we want to enjoy you. It is a new year, and you're going to do something new. And you can count on us. We're going to do something new, because we've never loved you in 2023 before. But we're going to love you starting today. Our love for you and our devotion and our sacrifice to you last year is so 2022. That was what we gave you last year. But we want you to know, like, we're going to do it again too. We're in it today. We're going to start the new year, even though we lose things that are heartbreaking for us, even though it's hard, even though we suffer, even there's things we don't understand. We know who you are. You've already promised to do a new thing for us. We're going to do something new because we've never loved you this year. But we choose to. We choose to start the new year reaffirming and recommitting to you as you have to us. You've told us in this passage, yes, I did this, I did that in Egypt, I did this in Babylon, I did this, but you don't even need to think of the former things. I'm not done, I'm doing something new. Well, we're going to say that back to you, Lord, too. Yeah, you don't need to look at, well, I've walked with you all these years and all these decades, and, you know, I'm a Bible study leader, or I've been going to church like every week. That's so like last year. I want you to know this year, I'm going to love you again. I'm going to do something new. I'm going to trust you in ways this year I've never trusted you before. I'm going to like submit and sacrifice more this year than I ever have. I'm going to match you because you are worthy of our honor and our praise. God will make a way when there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot even see, but He will make a way for me. And He will be our God, and He will be our guide. And we're going to be His people this year, right? We're going to we love you, and we trust you, and we believe what you've written in Isaiah, what you echoed in 1 Peter, and what you're saying to us today is true. You are doing new, fresh, wonderful things for us. Amen?
Amen.